so is the teaching process. The teaching of science and technology is done by observation. And this observation depends on the particular environment that this learner is. So as they observe, then they'll be able to develop the skill of observation. The skill of observation involves what they see. They make the use of the senses that they have in their body, what they see, what they hear, what they are going to smell. Now that is science. Okay, let me give a case in scenario. For example, in grade 4, where learners deal with the characteristics of plants, they are told to observe plants in their locality. A teacher at the western part of Kenya, the plants that these learners are going to observe, they're going to be totally different from those plants that learners at the coast are going to observe. But at the end of it all, the skill that we want to develop is going to be observation. That's why at some point in those science and technology books, you don't see notes. Because if it is the skill of observation that is supposed to be practiced in the entire level, that is the middle school from grade 4, 5, and 6, then what we want the learners to have is that skill of observation. And we know that there are other scientific skills. But you see, this is the first level that learners are learning science. In grade 1, 2, and 3, what they were doing is environmental activities. They were doing hygiene and nutrition activities. This could be their branches of science and technology. But I want you to understand as to why these hygiene, these environmental were not branded as science and technology. So the science and technology, the skill of observation is what learners should learn, or they should be able to master by the time they leave middle school. That is grade 4, grade 5, and grade 6. So as they observe plants in their locality, these plants are going to differ from one environment to another. So the moment they observe, by the time they get to grade 5, if you can go through the design, you're going to see in grade 5, the learning of flowering and non-flowering plants. Meaning this skill of observation has been modified. What we are doing in science is improving on this skill of observation gradually. They have observed in grade 4 plants in their environment, and they can be able to tell their characteristics. The environments, as I've said, they're totally different. When the environments are different, it means the plants they are bound to observe, they are going to be different, but the characteristics of these plants are the same. So when they come to grade 5, they are going to learn of flowering and non-flowering plants. That is classification, a modification of the skill of observation. So they classify. It means they've already mastered, they have observed the plants, they can tell the characteristics, and now they're able to distinguish that this plant is flowering and the other one is non-flowering. So that is still the skill of observation that has been modified a little. So in science, there's that gradual development of this skill of observation. Let me go to grade 6, even if you've not started the actual learning. In grade 6 now, they are going to do something a little complex, but still related to the skill of observation, still taking on the plants. In grade 4, they observed. By looking, by touching, they were able to tell the characteristics of the plants in their environment. In grade 5, they have classified these plants into flowering and non-flowering plants. Now in grade 6, they will do mounting, which is a higher level of a skill, or a higher form of the observation skill. Because if they are mounting and labeling parts of this plant, it means their skill has developed. So the reason we are doing science and technology in grades or in levels 4 to 6 is because we want learners to develop the skill of observation gradually before they develop other skills. Because you see, if they are going to develop these other scientific skills, they must have developed this basic one, which is observation. And in the process of observation, in the process of now the case in scenario I've given of observing plants in the environment and considering the environments are different, they are all bound to observe different plants. The moment they observe these plants, they will identify the characteristics of the plants in the environment. Then in grade 5, they are classifying these plants to flowering and non-flowering. Still, plants in their environment. If there are no plants in the environment, then maybe as the teacher, you're going to provide photographs of various plants to represent those that have flowers and those that don't have flowers. By the time they move to grade 6, they have already modified that skill. So I'm emphasizing that science and technology, as we teach this skill, finally, the skill has to be put in practice. And when we put this skill in practice to something useful, that's the time technology comes in. So that word technology is what I want you to understand, that the technology comes in by using the knowledge learners have gathered in class, and then the skills that they have acquired in the process of learning this knowledge. When they use this skill and knowledge to do something or to make or carry out a hands-on activity to solve a practical problem, that is the time it becomes technology. And that's why maybe I'll say we should not rush to tell learners to make things, to make something that we have not imparted a skill in them. Teach the knowledge, then let them carry out a hands-on activity to develop their skills. In the process of developing these skills in relation to the environment, like I've said, the environments are going to be different. In relation to the environment, then they will identify problems in their environment. They will use the knowledge and skills they have acquired to make something to solve a problem in their locality. That's the time it becomes science and technology. But if you're going to teach and finally learners are not going to use the skills and knowledge they have acquired to like solve problems in their locality, then that is not science and technology. Still in relation to the design, if you can look at grade 4, they're making the fireless cooker, and this is under that is the substrand on heat. The reason they're making the fireless cooker, if you look at how the learning outcomes have been developed, it is at the point at which they have realized that heat can be lost to the surrounding. So they're making the fireless cookers because they have identified a problem and they want to solve the problem. Now that is the time it becomes science and technology. Without learners using the knowledge they have acquired and the skills to identify a problem in their locality, then make something to solve or carry out an activity to solve a problem in their locality, then that is not going to be science and technology. I can welcome a question. If you have a question in relation to that.
Okay, now I think the audience will keep sending in their questions through the question and answer or on our chat, and then we shall have a moment when we shall respond to all these questions during our presentation. So Naomi, if you're through, then we can invite the next presenter. Or are you moving on?
Let me share some screen. Let me share a screen here.
Okay.
Okay, so that is, I just want to lay emphasis to what I've been talking about. Okay, Naima, you can carry on.
Okay, thank you. Our dear audience, we shall share this presentation with you and even all the slides that our panelists are going to use in handling this webinar. will be shared with you. So kindly just give us your email address, and then after these, we shall send you the presentation slides. Just type in your email address or send your email address to info@moranpublishers.co.ke, and we shall get in touch with you and give you the necessary presentation or information that you may require. Now, would like to invite Mr. Emmanuel Wawire. Emmanuel Wawire is going to take us through the practice of teaching science and technology. And he's going to give us the teaching methods that we can use, and also the teaching and learning methods. I'm sure we are into CBC and it is all about learner-centeredness. So Mr. Wawire, our audience, our teachers, the teachers like you are ready to hear from you. Kindly offer beyond expectation.
Thank you, Naima. I feel good to be part of this team that is talking about methodologies that we are supposed to employ whenever we are teaching or approaching CBC, so that we can.
Sorry, Mr. Wawire, the volume. Yes. You'll have to raise your volume.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm saying thank you, Naima, for giving us this opportunity as a team of authors and teachers of science to be part of this webinar. And I believe that my colleagues will be able to maybe learn from what we're going to present. And the colleagues, I want to promise you that most of the things that we are going to discuss here are things that you apply in class. It's only that we are trying to emphasize, and maybe so that in case we are not applying any of the methodologies I'm going to take you through, then we should have that opportunity to practice. First and foremost, when we are talking about CBC, we are looking at the teacher. And we are looking at the teacher, how this teacher is going to deliver the content. My colleagues, we must understand that we are now shifting from the traditional way of teaching, and we are moving to the 21st century methods of teaching. And that one also explains to us that even as teachers, we must come outside that box where we thought that we are the only people who have the knowledge. When you enter that class, believe you know that these learners know a lot that we may not even expect. And therefore, it's us to employ a technique of teaching that can tap on what already they know. Various methods of teaching that we employ in our class. And maybe just to pass you through, I don't know if the slides will be shared, but let me see if I can share. Naima, just let me see if I can share the slide that I have here.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to see the slide?
Yes, the slides are clear.
Thank you. So I'll just be giving summary of the teaching methodologies of CBC. And as you can see from the slide number 1 there, we are looking at brainstorming. Of late, brainstorming is a teaching methodology that we are employing and is working magic. I, Mr. Wawire, enter that class. Maybe I want to introduce a topic, and this topic is requiring learners to understand the definition. What I'm going to do, I'll put these learners maybe in pairs or in groups, and then I'll give them the task. I'll pose the question. Once I pose that question, I'll ask them to brainstorm. So as they brainstorm, they're going to share out what they know. And as they share out what they know, they're going to learn from one another. As they learn from one another, they are also going to improve what they used to know, maybe in a wrong way. And that's why we emphasize on allowing learners to brainstorm, to tell each other what they know about the question the teacher has asked. That's what we call brainstorming. And this brainstorming will also bring out the creativity in thinking. And they'll also be able to solve some problems through the interaction through brainstorming. Number 2, we have the gallery tour or walk. And I believe this one will work well when you've given a project. In the course of teaching, maybe there's a project they are doing mounting. Once they have finished mounting, which will be in a grade 6, they will display their final products. And once they have displayed their final products, maybe at a science corner or at a science room, you will give them a chance to make a tour. As they're making a tour, maybe they'll be also checking what other groups did that's different, that is slightly or maybe different from what they did. And by doing so, it's a method of ensuring that they learn from others. Okay? Then there is this method of KWL. What they know, what they want to know, and what at the end of the lesson they're going to learn. So KWL is a method that can be employed to ensure that you gauge your learners to see what they know. Okay? And also they'll be able to express to you as a teacher who is a facilitator that at the end of this lesson, teacher, I want to know about this. They'll have given you what they know already. Now they write down what they want to know at the end of the lesson. Then from there, after you've concluded the lesson, they'll tell you what they have learned. That's basically KWL. And most of these things that I'm discussing with you, my colleagues, some of them you may have employed them in your teaching process. Then there is this learning method of experimentation, where you give some apparatus and equipment maybe to carry out an experiment so that the learner may be able to understand that content through hands-on activities. So experimentation works very well because it gives a chance to our learners to actively engage with one another and engage with the materials you've given them. So they'll acquire a skill through the activity you've given them. There are some substance from grade 4 to grade 6 that you are supposed to provide the materials. And in most cases, we've been improvising the materials that this learner will be able to use to finally bring out the activity that you intend them to do, according to the learning outcome. And then colleagues, question and answer method. Question and answer method is widely used. And actually, any lesson that we are conducting will never miss this question and answer method. And maybe on this question and answer method, there's a way you have to frame those questions so that they can tally with Bloom's taxonomy. So when you are posing the questions, these questions can be oral or even written, but kindly ensure that these questions you are posing may be able to target all the learners in your class. There are those that will be high level and those that will be the low level questions. So ensure that you blend the questions. So ensure that the learners are able to grasp the content you are talking about. And then resource person, use of resource person is a tool that can excite learners. If you are looking at a learning outcome that involves a specialist, I request that if you can facilitate that specialist to be in your class so that learners can really see that these are specialists and giving us a content that is tallying with what the learning outcome in the design is talking about. That one can excite, and it can give room for the learners to pose questions to the person that you've invited. And through that, learners will be able to learn more. And in fact, they will be willing in future also to pursue that line of course. Drawing in science can't miss. Drawing in science is a tool that learners can be able to express their mind. So as they draw, they grasp the content, of course, under the guidance of the teacher. So drawing is a method that we've been employing, especially in science. And if you are very keen, you'll discover that when you look at our books of Moran, drawing is an activity that you'll never miss when we are writing our books. So to ensure that learners can be, to instill that creativity of thinking so that they can put what they have learned in form of drawing. Then we also have guided discovery. This is a method whereby the learners can be guided. Either the teacher can guide or the parents can come in. You can give a task where they consult with their siblings back at home or with their parents or with any other person they live with in the house. So guided discovery ensure that these learners retain the content. And of course, as parents guide these learners, of course, they'll also come back to class and confirm with the teacher that my parent, we discussed, and this was the finding. So guided discovery is a method of teaching that also works because this learner is able to even get information from his own parents and siblings. There are several, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear colleagues, there are several methods that we employ in our classes. Role play. Let those learners act some learning outcomes. And through that acting, they'll be able to retain the content you are teaching them. Then demonstration and explanation. This demonstration, it can be done by the learners themselves, not necessarily the teacher. The learners can be guided to demonstrate an activity that will make them understand the content you are teaching them. Songs and poems makes learning exciting. Songs, there are learners that will want to associate themselves with a particular song. You replace the words in that song with the learning outcome or with the content you are teaching. They'll really appreciate. And as they practice or as they sing and say those poems, they internalize the content. Visualization is a tool that works also magic because they see the real thing. This one can be in form of charts, charts that they can themselves draw and then discuss them in the lessons. Discussion, colleagues can bring out information that even us teachers who may not be knowing. Put these learners in groups, give them a task, let them discuss. As they are discussing, you are moving around also to check and to hear what they are talking about. As you are moving around to check and listen to what they are saying, you are also correcting them. You facilitate as you correct them, as they discuss the task you've given them. Peer-to-peer teaching is very important. Once in a while, there are those learners who are very fast, they grasp the content very fast. Once in a while, spot one or two, bring them in front, give them that task, let them explain to the rest. That one will give them confidence and they'll get that spirit of presentation and even collaborating with the rest. Nature walks. As Naomi had said, maybe you are teaching about plants, flowering plants, let them go out. Let them go out. It will excite them. Let them go out, see those plants. Let them touch the plants. Let them manipulate. And by doing so, I believe these learners will be eager even to learn more and be able to retain the content we are teaching them. Then project work, this one comes along way when we are teaching. You can give them a project that can take even 1 month, 2 weeks, 3 days, and as they do the projects, they are learning from one another. They are learning a skill that can be applied in the future. Remember, this CBC, we are teaching these learners to acquire those skills, scientific skills, that can eventually lead them to acquire a technique that can be used in their society and even in our country. I've talked a lot, ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues. Finally, our panelists are going to still talk about this as they'll be giving their case studies. I want to introduce to you this 5E instruction model. This 5E instruction model works magic. If we follow this, I believe learners will be excited, and I believe that we'll be able to achieve the learning outcomes as stipulated in the design. We are moving away from teacher-centered method. So we want to engage the learners. Let the learners learn. Okay, so the first E that I'm going to discuss with you briefly is engage. Let these learners be engaged. And how do you engage the learners? Give them a question, maybe, give them an activity, and as they do that activity, you've engaged them. Brainstorming is a way of engaging learners. Once you've engaged them, then allow them to explore. Give them the materials, instruments, so that they can engage in an activity. They explore what they have discussed or brainstormed during engagement. So let them explore. Explore is hands-on. So once they have explored, allow, maybe if they are doing in pairs or in groups, allow one of them to come and explain. And this explanation can be form of presentation. As they present, they're explaining what they have explored. And you as a teacher, you are only doing corrections or emphasizing on the content, maybe the one that they have not gotten it right. Once they are presented through explanation, let them elaborate what they have explained. How is it applied in their society? That's elaboration. And then finally, once they have elaborated, evaluate. And this evaluation is not the teacher to evaluate. It is themselves to evaluate what they have engaged in, what they have explored, what they have explained, what they have elaborated. Let them evaluate through maybe peer assessment. So this 5 instructional model of teaching, when you look at the design, the objectives, if you arrange them in this order, you will bring out that learning outcome without any stress. So the first C, engage, explore, explain, elaborate, evaluate. And these activities are for the learner, not the teacher. And I think the panelists who are going to take us through their case studies, they'll be very keen to follow this method. And you, my colleagues, also, when they'll be explaining the case studies, see how they bring out engage, how they bring out explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluation. So that brings the end of my presentation on the teaching and learning processes. And maybe I may have not touched on all of them. We are in a dynamic one, but feel free to ask any question through the chat so that you can respond to them as time goes by. Thank you a lot, Naima.
Thank you, Emmanuel. I am convinced that teaching science is fun, a lot of fun. And our good teachers, I'm sure you've gotten something new out of that. Especially engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Wawire. Now, I've not seen any question coming in as far as Mr. Wawire's presentation was concerned. But I encourage you teachers, kindly keep writing those questions. We are here to hear both the good and the bad. And we, in the open assessment, whereby we are ready to hear what our colleagues are telling us. We are here to tell them about how they are doing things and so on. So we are open to both the positive and negative feedback from you. So at this point, I would like us to move on and listen to Naomi take us through how to assess. Now, Mr. Wawire has told us the 5 instructional methods of engaging. The other one was exploring, explaining, elaborating, and evaluation. That is all about the learner. But at the center of it all, there is the watching eye of the teacher. I think this is the role that the teachers play very well, yeah? With your notebook, your red pen, ready to award. So let us see how assessment under CBC should be done. Naomi, kindly take us on and help us understand how to carry out formative assessment and, if possible, summative assessment. Naomi, sorry, activate your mic. Unmute your mic, Naomi. Good.
Okay, sorry for that. I welcome everyone on board. As Mr. Wawire said, the assessment bit of it is usually handled by the teacher. The learners are to evaluate themselves, give a feedback on how the learning outcome maybe was done out, what they got, their challenges, and you will step in after the process of assessment to ensure that the challenges that were incurred or were identified during the learning process are solved so that the learning outcome is finally achieved. So I'm going to take you through the assessment methods. Then I'll also take you through the assessment tools. So let me share some screens here, then I'll elaborate on them. So let me start with the assessment methods. I'll start on the first one, which is the individual performance assessment. And usually this one can be done, or mostly we do it using the written tests. After you've taught a learning outcome, you've carried out the steps that Mr. Wawire has emphasized on. You've engaged the learners, they have explored, then you have explained, they have elaborated how that is relatable to the environment. And finally, they have evaluated themselves. You're going to give a written test. When you give a written test, you'll of course have the answers. So that will be a method of assessment that will follow after a learning outcome has been taught and learners have gone through the whole process of learning. So this written test, most of the time, it can be one that you will do at the end of the lesson, or it can be one that is done at the end of maybe a substrand. So written will always be followed, or how you will, the tool that you will use when you're using the assessment method of written test is going to be the assessment rubric. After they have done a learning outcome, you will check, was this learning outcome achieved by using an assessment rubric? Let me first go through the assessment methods, but as I go through the assessment methods, I will relate them to the assessment tools. But later on, I'm going to emphasize and still give examples of the assessment tools. So method number 2, we are going to have the class presentations. For class presentations, you do them when learners have done maybe discussions, or learners have done a hands-on activity like making a project. So the class presentations, you will listen to learners give what they have done or what they have researched on or what they did. They will share the challenges they incurred and how maybe they solved them. So for class presentations, a teacher will use it as a method of assessment if only they'll have maybe a checklist. There's something they're listening to check if learners will present it well. But again, when there is a class presentation, as a teacher, you are encouraged or asked to make sure that whatever the learners present, you check for the facts and the effectiveness of their communication. So you will listen on and correct as the learners do their presentations. So during a class presentation, it is advisable that we have that tool of a checklist, because in this presentation, there is an aim as to why you're doing the class presentation as an assessment method. You're using it because learners did group work in trying to achieve a learning outcome. So as they are doing this, you want to assess during the class presentation if the learning, whatever they were achieving during the learning outcome is well brought out. So I've said the class presentation will well go if there's a checklist to it. We are not going to just listen and let the presentation go, but we listen and there are things that we are checking for. Then the next one we have is practical work. Like I said earlier on during the introduction, science and technology is a hands-on learning area that aims at solving problems in a learner's locality. So when it comes to practical work, you're giving practical work, having taught, having let learners explore their environment, explain, elaborate, and they have evaluated themselves. So you giving them practical work, it is like you want to impart the skill, especially maybe of observation. So you'll want to check, has this skill been brought out? So as also you use this method of assessment, you're going to have a checklist as the assessment tool. So the practical work comes in as a way of checking if learners mastered the skill, that they acquired knowledge from a particular learning outcome. So if the skill was mastered, then the practical work can be used as a method of assessment. And during this method of assessment, then you're going to use an assessment, you're going to have a checklist. So this practical work only comes in after knowledge has been acquired, and you're only using it when you're testing for a skill that you know you helped learners acquire during the learning process. The fourth assessment method, we have oral questions and answers. At times, maybe a concept could be not very simple, but a concept could be like you're developing it gradually. So instead of having written questions, you're going to have oral questions. For example, if you're teaching on force, you've done the exploration, they have gone through the 5 E's we have said, the engage, the explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluation. Instead of giving them the written questions, you can choose to do the oral questions. So you will ask orally, then the learners are going to respond. That is a method of assessment. Then next we have the gallery walk. Mr. Wawiri at some point spoke of the gallery walk, but it can be a method of teaching and learning. Equally, it can be a method of assessment. And I'm going to explain how it is used as a method of assessment. If learners, as I gave an example earlier on, they've made the fireless cooker, that is in grade 4. They did this in groups. So we don't know what group A did. We don't know what group B did. So the moment we collect all the fireless cookers that different groups in the class made, then we display them. Remember, we are doing the gallery walk as an assessment method. We display all the fireless cookers that different groups in class have made. Then we, the class members, are going to take a walk through the presented fireless cookers. So as we take a walk, we are not just taking a walk. We are taking a walk to assess what each group did. And as we take this walk, the assessment tool we are going to use is going to be the peer assessment checklist. If group A made their fireless cooker and it is a station A, we will go to station A, then we check their work. So this gallery work is a method of assessment, especially to products that have come as a result of achieving learning outcomes. We've imparted the skill of observation. Till now, there's a technique that has been involved. We have identified a problem in our locality. There is need for a fireless cooker to keep the food maybe we bring to school warm. So now there is the technology bit of it. We have solved a problem in our locality by making the fireless cooker. Now let's check out how group A made their fireless cooker. So we are not going to just check, observe and leave. We are going to use the peer assessment form. We are going to write this group, they did their best, but we feel if maybe they did this, their fireless cooker could have turned out to be better. I'm going to show you those examples when we move to the assessment tools. So that is the gallery work. Just as that name suggests, it is a gallery, meaning a collection of the products that learners have made during maybe a project or a class group work. So we walk through, but we are not just walking through, we are walking through, checking on the functionality, that is the word, of whatever they have made. Bearing in mind, we said science will be science without technology. If whatever they make or if whatever product that comes out of the knowledge when they apply the skills does not function. So that is the gallery work. Then we have a portfolio. For the portfolio, this is evidence that learning occurred. And when we are using this as an assessment method equally, it means the learning process occurred gradually. But in the process of gradual learning, we kept evidence at some point of what we have been doing. For example, even when they're making the fireless cooker, they're not going to make it in one day. There'll be a point at which they are going to assemble the materials. Then maybe as a group, identify the procedure they are going to use. They will make it at some point, leave it, then carry on with it later on. So they're going to maybe take photographs at stage one. So the portfolio will be like sequential to the final product. It will show how they started, and then it will give us the ultimate product. So you're going to use this, when you're using the portfolio, equally, you're going to have a checklist, because you're not just going to look at the portfolio, flip through it and just close. You're going to check it, and then that is now where the assessment tools, the assessment tool comes in. That is now the portfolio checklist. Then next we have the projects. The projects, as I'd mentioned under practical work, projects are done when learners have gone through the learning process. If it is a skill, you have done the skill with them. Now you want to emphasize the skill. For you to emphasize the skill, you're going to give them a project that you'll want them to put the skill they have acquired into practice. So you're going to use this assessment method after the teaching and learning process has been done. So equally, when you're doing the projects, you're going to have checklists, because there's something that you will need to check if the skill was acquired. You'll equally want to check, maybe as they do the project, if the learners are exercising the values, the core competencies, and any other bit that you'll want to test of the learners, because projects are done, they take quite a long time. So it is something that you'll be checking gradually, but keeping the record. So I'll emphasize that the assessment method of projects comes as a result of you imparting some skills that you want to test that learners have mastered by them carrying out a particular project, so that there is evidence that the skill has been acquired. So let me now move on to the assessment tools. And I'll also share a screen on that. So for the assessment tools, I'll say for the tool, it is something that you carry with you as the teacher. I'm the one who is teaching. They have done the project. I want to assess this project. I want to check out if the skill of observation was well brought out. For example, in grade 5, when they're making the portfolio, that is not, okay, that is grade 4. Let me use an example of grade 5, where they are doing the classifying of flowering and non-flowering plants. Learners have, maybe you give them a project, they go out, you'll want them to mount different plants, flowering and non-flowering. Now they have brought the work back to class. What are you going to use to check this presentation that they have done? You are going to use a checklist. Let me share samples of these checklists. And let me use this case in scenario where learners are identifying locally available coded patterns. This is in grade 4 under the substrand coding. If you're a teacher on the, maybe at the northern part of Kenya, you're going to look for coded patterns in your locality. These coded patterns, maybe you look for leaves and look at the different leaf arrangements. If these leaves are not available, then it means there could be some nests on trees or in some places where you'll have different patterns that birds make their nests. They are never the same. So that identifying the locally available coded patterns, if maybe in nature they are not there, then we are going to have maybe in a school, how will I tell that these are female or the girls' toilet and this is a boys' toilet? There's that code that is put at the door or at the entrance to this toilet. So identifying these locally available coded patterns, the skill that you'll want to test for is that of observing and identifying coded patterns that are available in their locality. So as they identify, you will ask them, but the asking you're doing, it is them observing and you're checking. So this checklist of observation is used when you're there with the learners and you're testing if they can be able to identify. So the moment they identify, then you will say that the skill has been well mastered. If it has not been well mastered, then you'll need to indicate what this learner needs to do to improve on that skill of observation. Still on the checklists, that one there is when learners have maybe done a photo album, as maybe they did in...
Sorry, Naomi. You're supposed to be showing us some slides on that, assessment tools. Maybe you could close the slides for assessment methods. Or scroll down if at all it is on the same presentation.
Sorry for that, let me share.
Okay. There?
Yes.
Okay.
But there's still something I want to share on that. You can see that checklist?
Yes.
Okay, that's the checklist I'm talking about. So in this checklist, you'll use this checklist as an assessment tool when learners have done maybe a portfolio or there's a project work that involved the workmanship and creativity. You'll want to see if the project is bringing out the message. Whatever they have done, is it something that is functional and maybe durable? Have they used improvised materials or they went out to buy? So when you're using all this, you'll not just look at the project or this photo album and leave it at that. you're going to use this checklist. So I'll move on to another example of a checklist. So that is the first I had shared. That is another checklist when you want to assess the core competences, values, and PCIs. That is a checklist for that is an assessment rubric. Okay, for the checklist, I'm done. Now let me move on to the next assessment tool. That is the peer assessment form. When I was handling the assessment tools, I said we will use the peer assessment form when maybe there is a class presentation that is being done in groups, or when learners have done some group work and there is a product to it. Like I said, for example, the fireless hookahs. So for example, the one that I have on this sample peer assessment form, learners have done mounting in different groups. And as they do the mounting, they'll, the other learners are going to do a gallery walk and they are going to check through. So they are going to give different comments on what they will have on this mounted work. Others are going to say maybe the mounting was beautiful, but there's something that had a problem that these learners need to improve on. So this peer assessment form comes in when one group is assessing another group's work. So finally, whatever one group like identifies to be something that a group needs to improve on, they will improve on their project. And finally, the whole class is going to identify maybe the best product of that project. Then that is one that learners can display for a whole school, maybe when there's a science clubs day, science day or a clubs day. Okay, I'll move on to another assessment tool. At some point, Mr. Wawire mentioned that the KWL can be used as a method of teaching and learning. This KWL can also be used as a method of assessment. So when it is used as a method of assessment, it is called the KWL chart. The K stands for no, then the L, the W, sorry, will stand for want, then the L will stand for learned. So simply, it is what the learner knows, what they want to know, and what they'll have learned at the end of the lesson. So you can use it as an assessment tool and as an assessment method. As a method, when you get to class and give this chart to the learners to fill in, and they're going to fill in the first column and the second column. That is what I already know. The case in scenario that is showing on the screen there, this is picked from for a grade 5 learner who has already done the force in grade 4. So you're telling them to fill in what they already know about force acting on objects. You're telling them to do this because you already know they did this in grade 4. So at the beginning of the lesson, you'll give them to fill in the first column. That is, what do I already know about force acting on objects? Then they'll also fill in, what do I want to know about force acting on objects? The force acting on objects, you're relating this to the activity that they are doing. Then at the end of the lesson, now for it to qualify to be an assessment tool, they are going to fill in on what I have learned about force acting on objects. So that is the KWL chart. So the next assessment tool I have is the Freya model. For the Freya model, this is an assessment tool that you use when you want learners to compare. I'll use like compare aspects or compare things. For science and technology, it can be applicable when learners have learned maybe a case in scenario, they have learned of vertebrates and invertebrates. So you'll want learners to distinguish between vertebrates and invertebrates. Instead of you writing questions down and, for example, number 1, define a vertebrate or distinguish between a vertebrate and an invertebrate. Number 2, list the characteristics of vertebrates, and next, list the characteristics of invertebrates. Then maybe give examples of invertebrates and give examples of non-invertebrates. In this case, give examples of invertebrates. So you are going to have a Freya model. And for the Freya model, it has those 4 sections, as you can see on the screen. What you're testing for example, as I've said, in this case, you're distinguishing between vertebrates and invertebrates. So we want to know in grade 4, if they have mastered the characteristics of vertebrates. What is a vertebrate? Can they give examples? And then they can give the non-examples. So they will define on one side, they are going to define what is a vertebrate. Then they are going to give the characteristic, because in grade 4, they have done one major. It will have the backbone. Then they will give the example. Then they're going to give the non-example. By giving this, you will be able to know that this learner cannot confuse between a vertebrate and an invertebrate. So this Freya model as an assessment tool comes in when you're trying to compare aspects. And learners can only be able to compare well in the Freya model after they have done one aspect separately and the other one has equally been done separately. So the Freya model will come in as a summary of them understanding the two separately. Now they can be able to link them together and fill in the Freya model. So the common, as I wind up on this, the common method of assessment for a CBC teacher is mostly the checklist. So for the checklist, it is going to be a different checklist depending on what you're assessing. And that's why even the examples that maybe ultimately we are going to share, they can always be modified. Because if you're going to assess a skill that you'll want to emphasize on as a teacher, then you're the one who is going to make a checklist that will suit you. So mostly teachers will always use the checklist, and they're also going to use the assessment rubrics. So for these others, these ones act as a way of breaking the monotony of using the regular assessment tools. And I think it makes even the work easy, especially if you're using a written test. If you use the Freya model, then it becomes easy, maybe in the process of marking, and identify a learner that has not achieved a particular learning outcome. So that is all from my side on the assessment tools and the assessment methods.
Okay, thank you so much, Naomi, for giving us that elaboration on the assessment methods and the accompanying assessment tools. I'm sure our teachers now understand that a method goes hand in hand with an appropriate tool. And a teacher is asking, let me find that question. A teacher was asking which method of assessment is appropriate for grade 5 and 6. And I will tell the teacher, use a method that is appropriate for that particular specific learning outcome or concept. We won't tell you that written test is the best or portfolio is the best here, but what does the specific learning outcome require? Is it a skill-based outcome? Is it a knowledge-based outcome? Is it a value-based outcome? What it is will call for an appropriate method and tool. So thank you so much, Naomi, for that wonderful presentation. And the teachers, sincerely, this is what you require, even in lesson delivery, in assessment, and so on. And remember, we are looking at formative assessment. We are looking at formative assessment because that is what is in the curriculum framework, and that is what is in our curriculum designs. Okay, So as we head towards the end of our webinar today, I would like to invite Mr. Vitalis. Vitalis was not with us when we started because of technology. You know, we are dealing with science and technology, and we all know that, let me put a finger on this, that technology is good, but at times, even if you are a guru, it can go wrong. So our teachers, even when we are supposed to use or to present that particular lesson using technology, always have plan B, which could be a resource person, which could be any other source of information other than technology. So, Mr. Vitalis, welcome. Greet your fellow teachers and then tell them what you have in store for them. Vitalis is a teacher of science and technology here in Nairobi. I know his school is in Isili, and so he will tell us what he teaches in Isili and what needs to be done as far as delivery of CBC is concerned. Vitalis.
Thank you, Madam Naima, my fellow panelists, and the fellow teachers, even the parents also in the group. Good morning. So today is a very nice day that we have this program so that we can enlighten the teachers and also if the learners maybe and parents so that they can know more about CBC, how it can be taught, and how the learners can acquire more knowledge and move ahead. So to start with, first of all, I want to thank my fellow panelists who are Mr. Wawira and Naomi, because already they have given me an easy task because I've explained about the method of teaching, assessing, and the assessing tools. So with me today, I want to look at what we call the case study so that we can now put in use of what they have said. And my case study today is coming from strand 1 in grade 5. Strand 1 in grade 5, that is living things. Then under strand 1, we shall look at what we call as substrand 1.2, that's animals, and then in particular vertebrates. That's from grade 5. The book I used to formulate this was running from page 12 up to 18. So my case study, as I've said, is about vertebrates. So teachers and if their parents may be in the group or in the program, this vertebrates, first of all, as you go to the class, first you have to engage learners so that they can think, brainstorm about this. Remember, these learners are not just empty, but they have something which they learned in grade 4 on the same topic of animals. In grade 4, they learned something to do with what we call as what invertebrate is and what are the vertebrates. So as a teacher, as you enter the class, the first thing you need to arouse the learners' interest by at least posing a question. That means you are trying to engage them so that they can brainstorm over what you are going to talk about. So you can pose a question to know if they still remember what they learned in the other grade, which is grade 4. They can name examples of invertebrates, but before that, they have to define what is invertebrate is. They have to explain or define again what a vertebrate is. That one, you are trying to arouse the learner's interest and be comfortable, be ready to advance on what they learned in grade 4. Remember, science is a spiral subject whereby it's building from what they learned to the next level. So first, you can pose a question like now defining the way I've said what vertebrate is and what invertebrate is. After that one, you can also ask them if they can be able to name some of these animals. They can name them. After naming, as a teacher, you'll be aware if these children, they move to the next level, when they're knowing or they remember what they learned. Like when you check now in the book, like the one I have, we have some pictures on page 12. On page 12, we have some pictures. I don't know if Madam Naomi can put that on the screen.
Vitalis, tell us which book you are using.
I'm using the book list, that's master for grade 5.
That is
Moran.
Master Science and Technology.
Yes, madam. Page 12.
Okay.
So if you open that book on page 12, you'll find some animals there. For them to get more about what you are trying to teach, they'll have to observe those pictures. Because when you look at the picture, we have picture, I hope you are putting on the screen, madam. You look at those pictures, you have picture A up to picture I. They're able to identify by naming those animals. By naming those animals. So after naming them, you'll have to ask them also to check if there's some pictures on the chart which you went with it in class. So they can know more about those pictures, about animals, but not to tell them to classify maybe this in vertebrate or vertebrate. They just name first as you write them on the board, the names on the board. Then after that one, you'll have to invite, if there is any learner, or you invite some learners to try and pick out from the pictures they have seen, those ones that they have bones, that means the vertebrates. So in that manner, they're now building up from what they learned in grade 4 to know more about vertebrates. In that manner, you are still having what you call as engagement. Then after that one, my fellow colleagues, you are going to go on what we call as exploring, the way Mr. Wawire put it, about methods of teaching or the stages of the handling the lesson. To explore, as he said, is to use the hands, to use the eyes, and even the brain to classify them. So in that manner, you'll have to take the learners, because already I've seen the pictures in the book. They have said what an invertebrate is, and also they have said what a vertebrate is. You'll put those learners in groups, then you move outside the school in the nearby or the neighborhood of the school. Either in the school if there is some animals, or in the neighborhood because already you had prepared that they'll go out. That one already, you are now using what you call as nature, the way Mr. Wawire said with my fellow panelists. They'll move around as they see those animals. So you can allow them, because they're using hands, they are using their eyes to observe, and also they are thinking. So they're exploring, that is. You can allow them to observe those animals. If they have some digital device like a camera or a phone, which is a smartphone, they can take pictures. So in that manner, learners are they're having what you call as exploring to know more about these animals. They take pictures, they observe keenly to see how the body look like, how the animal is different maybe from another animal. So as they move ahead, already have taken the pictures, they have observed the features on those animals, which they're outside. Then, as you do that way, as a teacher, make sure the learners are safe, because some animals are dangerous. Maybe you are going to check an animal, which is maybe a donkey, or even a cow, or even a goat. So make sure as you move with those animals in the neighborhood or within the school, make sure safety of the learner is very much paramount. So you tell them not to move very close to the animal or those animals. Or maybe you are moving where there's a beehive. The bees can sting them. So in that manner already you have done what you call as exploring. They have used their hands, they have used their eyes, and even they have used their ears, because some animals may make some noise. Maybe a cow is bellowing or a goat, like that. So as you move ahead as a learner, those learners are in groups, they're taking pictures, they're even discussing about the parts or the features of those animals. That means now you are using the discussion method as the learners are in their groups. And also they're exploring. So as they do that way, they can even write some few notes on their books they carry. So next, as a learner, as a teacher, sorry, make sure the learners in each group, they have done like the other group by identifying the parts or the features of those animals. And even if possible, they have given the name of that animal they have seen. So that one you have done. The next one, as a teacher, because you are handling this topic about vertebrate, after the learners have already taken the pictures, they'll develop interest to know more about vertebrate animals. Either you can sit down at a shed when you are outside there, or you can go back if it's near the classroom. They go back to the class, and then they can name more animals, like the ones they saw, which have bones or the backbone. So learners, you see, they are now doing what you call as explaining, and also they are elaborating more about vertebrates. Remember, Mr. Wawir also told us about this stage of teaching, which you have as explaining, because already learners have seen with their eyes, they have even taken pictures. Now they can define what's like now vertebrate very easily, because they have seen, they know now what they're talking about. And in that case, learners now, they can start classifying or putting those animals, which they have seen in the book, which they have seen outside during the nature walk, in the groups. Because remember, vertebrates has many groups, which are 5 groups. But if we put in the 5 groups, they are put into 2, which are the ones with the warm blood and cold blood. But now that one you don't write because not their level, but they need to understand. So as they come in class, you engage those learners in their groups so that they discuss the animals they have seen in pictures about the vertebrates, so that they can put in the groups of either it's a reptile, or it is a mammal, or it's a fish, or maybe it is an amphibian. Also, they can add on, in case maybe as a teacher you had a chart that has some pictures on it, so that you can now assist them to put those animals in various groups, together with what they saw outside. So as you advance on, already they have explained, they have elaborated, then you'll move ahead and now ask them in each group to stand up and now read what they wrote in their groups. So each group, because remember of time frame, a lesson takes a few minutes, so you may not be able to take all groups, but maybe 3 or 4 groups. One individual will stand and then read out what they have classified from the animals they have seen in the book, from the chart, and from their nature. So as they read out, you remember some learners, maybe they may have some certain difficulties of maybe seeing well, or listening, or maybe moving ahead with others quickly. These ones will act as what you call peer-to-peer teaching now. Those that were not able to grasp the work well while outside, they'll understand much better, and the lesson will have gone on well. So as a teacher also, you may require the learners to write those things now, each individual in the book from the group, so that each person should have those summary written details in their exercise books. So as the lesson goes on, you are going now to have what you call as evaluation. So evaluation here, before we go to evaluation, we have what you call as, because you need to brief them, or it will be in the next study or next lesson, about at least in each group to identify certain characters in each group of animal that make them differ from other groups. For instance, maybe they saw a cow. How is a cow different from a tortoise? Maybe they saw a sheep. How is sheep different from a snake? So as they name those things that make them differ, then it means they're trying to come up with what you call as characteristics of each group of vertebrate animals. So in that manner, you find that the lesson will be very good, will be interesting, and the learners will continue knowing more, and they have interest to learn more about vertebrate animals. So when we come to the end of that lesson, as I was saying, you will have to evaluate the learners. How are you going to evaluate learners? One, you can evaluate them by asking oral questions, which every individual or in group work, they can write down and name them before the class. Also, the way they're talking as you move around the class, checking on what they have discussed, you can identify maybe there's a weak learner who didn't get the content well. So after that one, you can give extra work so that you can understand better. Then under evaluation, you can now come and use the way Madam Naomi said about assessment, way of assessment, which you can now use what you call as the rubrics, because you can now go to each individual and know if this child can be able to define what a vertebrate is, can be able to name some animals in every group of a vertebrate, or maybe if this child can be able to classify those groups and even give the characteristics. So you'll be able to use the rubric and tick where necessary. So that's how you can have what you call as evaluation. Lastly, as I summarize, remember in CBC, it is a curriculum that is not just for a teacher, but for the teacher, learner, and the parent. You can also give the work to the learners so that they can go home. When they go home, either meet their parents or they meet their guardians. If there are those who are day scholars, I know somebody may ask, what about if they are boarders? So if they are the day scholars, they can engage with their parents or guardians to know more about animals which are in the group of vertebrates. And if possible, they can even write the names of those vertebrate animals in their vernacular language. In that manner, you are promoting what we call as consistency and social welfare, because at least every child will have to appreciate now his or her language. Then as they come back, okay, that's the work they'll be doing at school. And then after that one, you'll have to have what you call as, maybe in the class, you may just ask a few random questions. Like one, because now you are summarizing so that you can know if the learners understood better, you can just ask randomly for the children at least to name one example of an animal in each group of vertebrates. That is reptile, fish, birds, mammals, or amphibians. Then lastly, you can also ask the learners, if possible, if they can remember and draw at least an animal from each group in their book. Because in that manner now you are trying to boost or make them have the skill of, or developing a talent of drawing. If there is one who like that, you are now trying to develop that talent. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wawire, for Mr. Makanda Vitalis, for that wonderful presentation. You've taken us through a lesson. You have enabled us go through the 5 E's of, I don't want the teachers to forget these. I think this is the punchline of the day. Engage, explore, explain, elaborate, evaluate, go back, engage, and the cycle continues. So that is our punchline of the day. And our desire is that we try this. Teachers are asking whether the activities or the experiences we are sharing, the examples we are using, especially what Mr. Makanda has used in his lessons, whether that is possible. But remember this, our dear teacher, use what your environment can offer. Use what your resources can offer. If your school is, let's say, on Moi Avenue, I know there is a school there, Nairobi, it is an urban school. Obviously, you have nowhere to take your children to study vertebrates, but you have a lot of internet, yeah? You can use videos. Those children you are teaching, They have experiences. They have been to the villages. They have been to the agricultural shows. They have seen those animals. So why not engage them and let them share their experiences? You can use charts and so on. So what we are saying here is not cast on stone, but in the spirit of CBC, let us look and use what our environments can offer. Our environments are unique. Our economic abilities are different. There are schools that can afford all these, and there are those that cannot afford. So let us make our own learning and teaching resources using the little that we can afford. So at this juncture, I don't know whether Mr. Wawire, Emmanuel has anything else to add, or we can move on to our next panelist. Do you have anything, Mr. Wawire?
Not really, but just to respond, there's someone who had asked a question that is it possible to use various methods in one lesson? The answer is yes. From what Vitalis Makanda has explained, you could see clearly that there's a method of brainstorming, there is discussion, there's peer teaching, and there is question and answer method. So it's very possible. In fact, the more you blend majority of the learning or teaching methodologies, the better for the learner, because each of those methods will affect an individual learner. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wawire, for reminding the teacher that the children that they are teaching are as varied as the universe. There are those who will learn well through practical activities. There are those who will hear and understand. There are those who will require you to sing and dance together with them. There are those who will learn through visuals. There are those who will learn through touch and so on. So employ as many teaching methods as possible so that you can include those learners in the learning process. So thank you so very much. I'm looking at Geoffrey. Geoffrey Lijodi, are you there?
I'm there. I'm there.
Okay.
Naima, I'm there.
Now, if you are there, well and good. Show your face. Okay.
My face is there.
Thank you so much, our teachers. We've been handling the core of teaching and learning science and technology. We have based so much on assessment and assessment methods and assessment tools. And this far, we believe that we have added value. We have been of help and great support to you. And we leave our doors open. We leave our communication channels open. If you want to get in touch with us or you want more from us, from our panelists, Moran Publishers is open and we welcome you. But before we close, we are publishers, we have products, we have what makes us partners together with you. We have what makes us a stakeholder in education. And the person that is going to tell you or to tell us who we are and what we have is none other than Geoffrey Lijodi. Geoffrey, these teachers know you, they know you by voice, by name, and even by color. Talk to them.
Thank you so much, Naima, for the presentation and for coordinating this webinar. I want to thank the panelists for the good job that you've done. I think I've enjoyed as a teacher of social studies. I feel like I should be given a lesson tomorrow to teach science and technology. You demystified it and made it look very easy. And I'm sure we have other teachers of social and CRE in the webinar who will concur with me that science, as you have presented, is very interesting learning area that we need to practice and to encourage our learners to understand that it is not a difficult learning area, but an area that gives them opportunity to explore and to give out the best of what they are made of. As a company, we have authors who are facilitators and who have a mastery of science and technology. And if you look at the way we've done our webinar, our editorial team, our publishing team are well versed with the learning area. And I think teachers, you'll agree with us that if you can adopt our books, then you'll be able to have an easy time in teaching and learning in your classroom and in your environments. So as a company, we have a varied products, and I want to start with our grade 4, science and technology. The book is the title of the book is Moran Science and Technology. This is a book that was well-researched, well-written. If you look at how we assembled the content in the book, how the content flows, how the illustrations flow, the activities that we have engaged in the book. And if you look at it keenly, this is one of the best books in the market. And again, it's good to inform you that this is a book that we supplied to all the government schools in the country. And that means this is a book that you must have time and get a copy and adopt the book in your schools. So I want to take you through the qualities of our science and technology. And if you look at the book and the content, it enables learners to interact with the environment for effective learning. Our facilitators for the day have talked a lot about science being a learning area that gives learners an opportunity to go out in the environment and to interact with the environment in a positive way. If you go through the designs from grade 4 moving forward, you'll find there's a lot to do with the environment conservation, how to make the environment better. So this, I think, gives learners an opportunity to understand why it's important to take care of the environment and the benefits. And in our books, we have given learners an opportunity to get out with the interacting activities according to the curriculum design. Next, you find that in the Moran Science and Technology grade 4, we've given examples that can be used in developing digital literacy skills appropriately and use of the gadgets safely. We know once we give the learners the gadgets, we have to give them guidance on how to use them safely, because if we don't give them that information, they might be misused. So in our science and technology grade 4 learners book, our examples in the book are good in developing the digital literacy skills as per the CBC curriculum. Next, you find that learners will be equipped with knowledge to observe and explain the natural world provided. And this, if you look at the book again, we find that we have given them activities that will keep them with the right knowledge that they can use to their daily living to observe and explain what is surrounding them. And if you look at the book again, we have provided projects for discovery in line with the SLOs in the design. So this again is the only book that you'll find we have incorporated projects that are in line with the curriculum design. The book stimulates scientific inquiry through activities that require critical thinking and problem solving, giving the skills for a lifelong learning. You all agree that you compare our 844 and the current curriculum, it is better off than the 844, because here we are not only stimulating the inquiry of the learners, but we're also giving them activities that will require them to think critically before they can attempt to solve the problems that surround them. If you look at the book in page 13, we have a project there. You can see we have a project here. If you want our learners to, just a minute, I want to show you that. We have a project there, and this project involves parents making the portfolio of vertebrates and invertebrates with the help of your parents or guardian. There's the element of parental engagement and empowerment, which is critical in the curriculum, in the CBC curriculum. Therefore, in our grade 4, Moral Science and Technology, we have incorporated projects that parents have to be involved so that they can track what is taking place in school. We also have not only just given content, but we have also included assessment exercises. And these assessment exercises will run through the whole course. So if you look at the book, if you interact with the book, you'll find we have given after every strand, we are engaging learners with the assessment exercises so that as a teacher, you're able to measure how the learners are getting the concepts so that you can have remedial in case you have learners who have facing challenges. Another feature about our science and technology is we have word puzzles. So these word puzzles will require a lot of critical thinking and problem solving. These puzzles will enable learners also to do collaboration in groups so that they can tackle the tasks that are there. And you find this becomes very exciting to the learners. So this gives them that urge to learn and to get engaged with the activities. And as a company, this is what we've done in the book, and this has become a very popular book in the market. If you look at the illustrations in the book is full color and the illustrations are well done, and the examples that we are using is within the reach, within the learner's environment. This is a book that I would wish as teachers of science, we can get a copy and just familiarize ourselves with the book. Enough with the science learners book. After teaching, we have been reminded that we need to assess whether the learners are in line with what the objectives of the curriculum and the objective of the teacher. And the only way we can do this is through giving them extended work. This extended work, we have realized that we need to give them work that is in line with the curriculum, in line with the learning specific outcomes in an orderly way. And the only book that is relevant is a workbook. A workbook will give learners an opportunity to display what they have learned freely and in a way that the teacher can easily follow through. And as a company, we have come up with this series, the Breakthrough Series. Breakthrough Series is a series that runs right from grade 1. Grade 1, we have 2 volumes. Grade 2, we have 2 volumes. Grade 3, we have 2 volumes. And in grade 4, currently we have 3 volumes. I know Naima will have some input about the grade 4 workbooks when I'm through. And in volume 2, we have volume 1 that has mathematics and the languages. Volume 2 is the one that has science alongside agriculture, social, and home science. And in grade 3 is where we have the religious education and art and music. So in our grade 4 breakthrough workbook, you find that we have activities that are fun-filled activities to develop learner competencies. In our grade 4 breakthrough workbook, we have extended work for individual practice and to develop values and competencies. So as a teacher, once you've taught a specific strand or substrand, you have an opportunity to give learners extended work to take home, or they can do it in classroom so that you are able to measure your progress with the learners. Activities that can be done collaboratively have been included in our breakthrough series so that learners can learn from each other. In our breakthrough series, again, we address all the specific learning outcomes in an orderly manner for convenience issuance of extended work. With our workbooks, we have arranged in a systematic way in line with the SLOs. So this gives a teacher and the learner a smooth run. And the flow is good even for the parent to follow through what is being taught at school. The teacher is able to effectively assess the learner's understanding of strands and substrands. Once you have our workbook as a teacher, your work is very easy. You are able to know how you are teaching and the level of the learners, how they're understanding the concepts as you move, and you are able to address any issues that come about through issuance of work from our workbooks. Again, our workbook, they take home activities that enhance parental empowerment and involvement. So with our workbooks, we have given you work that parents and guardians at home will be involved in the learners so that the parents can track their children's progress in school. If you look at our breakthrough series again, we have projects. We have projects. We are the only publisher that has done a unique job. Like here, we have our first project work is planting seeds. So this runs through the series, through the course, all the strands in the breakthrough series. You find we have given a project, and the first project is planting seeds. The second project is making a portfolio for vertebrates and invertebrates. The next project is on strand 3. The next project is making an air pollution detector. Project number 4 is making a dust mask. So you find that we have projects in each and every strand, at least 2 projects across the course. And then we have also included assessment exercises. You can see the first assessment exercise on page 12, where we are giving the teacher an opportunity to measure what they have taught, maybe in 2 or 3, 4 lessons, so that you can understand whether the learners are moving with the speed that you require. And then another unique aspect about our breakthrough series is we have also included hints. We are giving learners a hint about the strand or the substrand, just to remind them about what we feel maybe they need to be reminded before we progress too much ahead. So when they look at the hints, they are able to recall what you taught in the previous lesson. And this again, the hints will cut across the course. So in every strand, you find a hint, and you'll find an exercise for them, assessment exercise for them to do. And then lastly, in this grade 4 workbook, you'll find that we have incorporated an authentic task. In page 63, we have the authentic task. This is a very common in our workbooks. We have given you an opportunity to share an authentic task with your learners so that we prepare them for any authentic task that they may encounter from NEC. By doing this, it will not come as a surprise. It will not come as something that is new. We've seen parents panic. We've seen students panic when they are told that there's an authentic task. The term itself is too much scientific. They wonder, what is this authentic task? But with the Moran books, the language of NEC is already in our books, and this will give your learners an easy time, so that when they told there's an authentic times, they will challenge you, the teacher, and they'll tell you, let's have it even now, Mali. We are ready. So that is the beauty and the unique features of our Moran breakthrough workbooks, and I would wish to encourage and to request that you adopt the books. That is enough for grade 4. And now for grade 5, we are also approved in science and technology, and our course book is Master Science and Technology. Master Science and Technology comes with a corresponding teacher's guide, just like the grade 4 learner's book has a corresponding teacher's guide that gives a teacher the way of teaching and the how and the when. The way, the how, and the when to teach science and technology. And in our grade 4, in our grade 5 Master Science and Technology, we have used simple language that a learner in Mandera, a learner in Mombasa, a learner in Kakamega, a learner in the villages in Moranga can understand the language of the books, can comprehend with the content that is in the book. Another feature is we have used appropriate illustrations and photographs, and this will be within their environment. The photographs will just be an example of what is in their environment, in their daily environment. A variety of learner-centered activities, including community service learning activities, have been incorporated in our Master Science and Technology. As a teacher, you will not have a hard time to find activities to take them out to get involved with the community around. In our science, Master Science and Technology, the book instills acquisition of necessary skills and attitudes and values as prescribed by the CBC competency-based curriculum. All the SLOs have been captured and the activities that are interesting to the learner. And then lastly, the book stimulates scientific inquiry. We want to have scientists, we want them to take the path of science. And when you start using our Moran series for science, you find that we stimulate the inquiry through activities that require critical thinking and problem solving, giving the skills for a lifelong living. So I can assure you the next generation of scientists will come out of this country by the adoption of our series that gives them that challenge. And after teaching, we have agreed we need to measure the progress of our learners through giving them activities that are interesting, activities that will stimulate inquiry, will stimulate a lot about attitudes so that they can have a positive attitude in science. And as a company, again, we have gone further and we have just released our CBC Breakthrough Workbook for Science and Technology. In grade 5, we have this series cuts across all the learning areas. So each learning area has a book standalone. And our series for grade 5 CBC Breakthrough Science and Technology has fun-filled activities to develop learner competencies. We have work for extended work, individual practice to develop values and competencies. The activities that can be done collaboratively have been incorporated. If you look again in the book, we have addressed all the specific learning outcomes in an orderly manner for convenient issuance of extended work. As a teacher, you need that. And the teacher is able to effectively assess the learner's understanding of strands and substrands. And then the take-home activities, and we have incorporated parental involvement and engagement so that the parents can be able to track the progress of their learners. So in this book, we have, again, very unique approach that we've taken so that it is simple to use and the learners can easily use it on their own without much supervision of the parent or the teacher. One is a point to note, because we realize we need to be reminding ourselves of where we come from and where we are going. So we've incorporated the points to note in our book. So this is this runs across the course. Wherever we are through with a strand, we are reminding ourselves points to note in the strand that we just taught, and this cuts across in all the strands. And that feature is we have challenging activities that require a little bit of critical thinking, problem solving. If someone is speaking, maybe they need to mute. So you find word puzzles there. The word puzzles are a unique feature, and learners will have to critically think for them to tackle the tasks that we've given with the word puzzles. They can do this individually or in groups to enhance collaboration and teamwork, and also remember you can tell Malim to mute a bit. Solomon, you can mute.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think we are okay. Fine, sorry for that. So as I was saying, we have challenging activities across the book, and these activities are required in science so that we instill that critical thinking, that inquiry-based learning, so that learners can give us the best of what they have. We have also used digital activities that can enhance digital learning and literacy. And in page 38, we have, for example, given you an opportunity there to instill that in the topic, in the strand solid waste management. We are asking them a lot about use of digital gadgets and how to handle them. We also have examples familiar with the learner's environment. If you look across the book, we are using examples that are familiar with their surrounding so that they can easily relate. You can see these activities, these are examples of things that are within the environment. The photo of the merry-go-rounds, we take them there for weekends. These are play equipment that are found within our schools and our communities. So as you take them through the gravity to the force of gravity to function, we are using examples in our books that you can take them from classroom to the field outside so that you can also be able to teach outside the classroom. And then on creativity, we are also giving them a challenge here where they are supposed to design a unique sign prohibiting loud sound. Then we've given them space to draw a sign there prohibiting loud sounds. So they have to think. They can do this in groups. They can do it somewhere else and come and perfect it in the book. Then lastly, we have given assessment exercise at the end of the book. Again, these assessment exercises enable the teacher at the end of the course to assess now how the learners have taken up, have understood the concept and the requirements of grade 5 science and technology. So with that, I think we are done with our presentation, and I would wish to encourage our teachers of science to look at our Moran science and technology for grade 4, and also to look at our Moran master science and technology for grade 5. So these are books that are already available in the market. These are books that you can easily access in bookshops across the country. So if I can share my contact is 0733 333 280. And again, thank you for coming on behalf of Moran Publishers and the Moran sales team. We have a team that is in all the regions in the country. If you need to be assisted, you can just drop us a message, and on Monday and Tuesday, we shall be with you in your classrooms to interact further with our products. Thank you very much, and back to you, Naima.
Sorry for that, my mic was off. Thank you, Geoffrey, for your wonderful presentation about our products, our teachers and participants of the day. We introduced ourselves, and now you know that we are Moran Publishers. And in this industry, we are one of the publishers. And we always believe that what we give to our teachers and our learners is not in vain, but it is something that is worthy using, because our main reason for existing is to add value, to bring value to our learners and our teachers, and to partner together in the journey of learning and teaching, because we believe and we know it is a noble profession. And so we welcome you on board. Check out Moran Publishers products. We have our Moran Primary Science and Technology, as my colleague Lijodi has spelled out. We also have workbooks in all areas. We have CBC products. According to our list, we have more than 250 CBC books. You are welcome to our music, to our art and craft. Welcome to our agriculture, our Kiswahili, studies of Kiswahili, our skills in English, and many other titles that you can use together with your learners. I want to thank the teachers that sent in their questions, but actually one or two have caught our attention, and we feel that it will be good for us to respond to them on air. A question that was asked by Boaz is worthy for us to discuss, and then another question. So I will invite Naomi to address those two questions so that we can close this session at that point. It will be unfair for us to leave these two questions unanswered because Boaz has asked them on behalf of many other teachers. Naomi.
Thank you, Naima. The question that Boaz Oruaru asked, please may I know the skill that is taught in grade 6? He identified from my talk that I highlighted in grade 4. I think I was using the example on plants. In grade 4, there is observation, classification. I want to emphasize that teaching science and technology involves so many skills. Basically, they are around 7. So we usually have observation, manipulation, among others. But for this level of learning, I said we are emphasizing on the skill of observation. But this skill of observation is like modified as learners move from one level to another. So the skill that they will do in grade 6 will be that of mounting in relation to the question that he has asked, because I was using the example of plants. So the mounting is still a skill of observation, but it is a little complex compared to what they did in grade 4, which was observing plants in their locality, then they identify the characteristics. Then in grade 5, they had the classification of plants or grouping plants into flowering and non-flowering plants. So in grade 6, they are going to do the mounting. But I said, in the process of teaching science and technology, what we are emphasizing at this level is the skill of observation, because as they move to this, the junior secondary school, now they are going to use this skill of observation, and having acquired more knowledge, now they will be able to have better skills. But the skill we are emphasizing on is going to be observation, and the one that now they will do in grade 6 will be mounting. So the other question was on, we kindly tell us between the methods of assessment given, which is the most reliable in grade 5 and 6. I wouldn't say that there is a particular method of assessment that is reliable to a particular level, but each time you're going to use the most appropriate method of assessment that has a particular assessment tool for a specific learning outcome that you have taught. So there is no particular method of assessment or assessment tool that is reliable for a particular level. It is only one that can be able to help you assess a learning outcome that you have taught using a particular assessment tool. Naima, I think those are the two questions. Is there any other that I've not answered?
I think those are the two questions, and I want to believe that the people who asked them are satisfied with our answers, and only putting there a disclaimer that, you know, you are always better than us. Okay, Naomi, can I take it over now?
Yes, you can take over.
Okay, thank you. I want to apologize to our participants because of the stretch in time. We have experienced a stretch in time, and we are really sorry for that. We started a little bit late, maybe 10 minutes late, and we are sorry for that. And we hope that you have forgiven us for that. Now, we really want to appreciate our teachers, parents, and other stakeholders who attended our today's webinar, in which we were discussing, teaching, and assessing science and technology in grade 4 to 6. And we want to believe that we have come to an agreement that these sessions should continue. It was our very first one in science and technology, and very soon we shall be inviting you for another of the same nature, science and technology, and even other learning areas. And for us to be able to serve you better, we'd like to hear from you. As I started, I gave you an email address, which is info@moranpublishers.com. moranpublishers.co.ke, info@moranpublishers.co.ke. Kindly talk to us on that email address. Also talk to us on our website, talk to us on our Facebook. Actually, the recording of today's webinar, people are asking, can we get the recording? Right now, log into our Facebook or our website, our YouTube channel, you will see this recording. So kindly access this recording from our YouTube channel. And for you to get there, you can go through our website or our Facebook or directly to our YouTube channel, and we'll get this recording. Thank you so much, our teachers who have shared their email addresses. We shall get back to you. And above all, we appreciate you and honor you for attending this webinar. And our desire is that we put what we have discussed here in practice. And as usual, let us engage, let us explore, let us explain, elaborate, and evaluate. So thank you so much. I'd also love to thank our able panelists who have given their time and their cognitive resources and skills into this webinar. Thank you, Naomi, for making yourself available. Thank you, Vitalis. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Thank you, Geoffrey Jody. And behind us was a man that was pulling the strings, the technical strings. Solomon Baire, thank you for facilitating this and making it possible. And on behalf of Moran Publishers, headed by our chairman, Mr. David Muita, and our MD, Ms. Mary Maina, would really love to send you our love and our gratitude. So see you again in another webinar, either virtually or physically. And our prayer is that God may bless you. So for now, I will ask the panelists to wave a bye-bye to our audience as we come to a close of this webinar. We shall be sending you the slides on the email addresses that you have shared. And if you have not given us your email address, kindly do so in a short while. So God bless you so much. And from me, Naima Kasim, kwaherini.